Okay, so welcome back. You're crushing it. You are on day 7, I believe. Oh, you're getting there. Don't get cocky, but you're almost a third through. This is good. This is some of the most exciting reading that you're doing, like narrative, history. It's enjoyable. There's a storyline. You start to get into the prophets, and you're gonna need toothpicks to keep your eyes open at times. I mean, for me, it's kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. You get into the New Testament, and that's just fire again. But prophets is a bit of a struggle. Here, you're finishing the Book of Judges, and the Book of Judges is just it's a cycle of God raises up a deliverer. Israel's saved for like 5 seconds, and then they go back to doing their stupid thing. And then God allows them to be destroyed by their enemies. And then they cry out to God, oh, this is so awful. Then God raises up a deliverer or a judge. And the judge delivers Israel because God's kind and he hears and he answers our prayers, even when it's our own doing, which is amazing. If you think about the book of Judges, it's the grace of God that comes to people who don't deserve it. You ever felt like, I'm just working the grace of God, but God's not going to answer this prayer. He's not going to get me out of this one. I really messed up. He's not going to get me out of this one because I'm just caught in the, rinse, lather, repeat. But sure enough, God's merciful and he hears our cries and he sees our bondage and he wants to set us free. And so he raises up a deliverer again. And any Christian can, probably, I can anyways, see yourself in the book of Judges going, yeah, there's times when I'm every man does what is right in his own eyes. And I get myself in trouble, and I call out the Lord, and the Lord though is always faithful to set me free, to raise up a deliverer. But the issue obviously was their heart. They just wanted good times. And there's two types of Christians. There's good times Christians, bad times Christians. I don't know which one you are, but these guys were bad times Christians. So when they were bad times, they became really spiritual. God raises them up. Then we get into Samuel, or actually we get into Ruth.
In a time where truth is under attack through distraction, disinformation, and the chaos of postmodern ideologies, it's vital for us as Christians to strengthen our faith through education. Theosu delivers a distilled Bible college experience for all Christians right in your pocket. Binge like Netflix or join cohorts for guided study. From full-time church staff to Christians in any vocation, Theosu fits your life and calling. Equip yourself, your church, and your ministry with courses on all aspects of the Christian faith, taught by leading scholars, ministers, theologians, and apologists. Come learn non-woke theology at Theosu.
Ruth is like this beautiful story, of a Moabitess. Moab was one of the incest sons of Lot. So this tribe was born as a result of a woman essentially raping her dad, getting him drunk because she didn't have a husband. It's 2 sisters, and pretty messed up. Anyways, the Jews were kind of like, ugh, we know your lineage. It's a result of incest, and not good. So this guy leaves Jerusalem, and he takes his wife and his sons, 2 sons. There's a famine, and he doesn't have faith that God's going to take care of his people. And he hears that there's food in Moab. And so he takes a big risk, and he goes to Moab, and him and his sons die in Moab. And the lesson is, hard times may come to the people of God, but God's always going to take care of his people. And so you don't go to Moab for bread. And he should have known this as a covenant son, because we learn from the life of Abraham that you don't go to Egypt for bread. You trust the Lord, and you trust his leading, and you stand your ground, and stay in the land that the Lord gave you, and he's going to cause it to rain, and just serve him, and things are going to be okay. So this guy dies kind of out of the will of God. And Naomi is a widow. And Naomi means sweet. But life has been pretty difficult for her because her husband's an idiot. The two sons had married Moab women, or Moabite women, and Ruth was one of them. And Ruth had nowhere to go. She didn't have any kids. And so Naomi says to Ruth, just stay here. You're going to be fine. And she's like, no, I'm going to go with you. And your people are going to be my people, and your God's going to be my God. She has this conversion moment because her heart is knit with the covenant woman, Naomi. Naomi comes home. She brings Ruth with her, her Moabite daughter-in-law. God uses this Moabite girl who has a conversion, a faith experience, and a belief. She receives the God of Naomi because God's at work in her life. And God's going to use her to provide for the covenant daughter and also make her a covenant daughter. And so Naomi comes back, and they're like, hey, Naomi. And she's like, I'm not Naomi. I'm not sweet anymore. Call me Mara. I'm bitter. But it's a joke. It's, because be careful what you say out loud, because God will hear that and then he'll reverse it. And so she encourages her daughter to hang out with a guy who's rich and loaded and handsome, kind of like Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, a little bit older. Long story short, Ruth ends up marrying this rich older dude. The moral of the story is go for rich older men, number one. And number two, that God's salvation plan is bigger than just the people of Israel. They're meant to be a blessing to the whole world. And Ruth is going to give birth to a boy, and they're going to call him Obed. And then Obed's going to give birth to another boy, and he'll call his name Jesse. And Jesse's going to give birth to a little runt of the litter named David, and David will be king. And the reason why this book exists is because the Davidic dynasty needed to tell David's story. It's a story of grace, and it's a story of the sovereignty of God and how God saved his family, and God's at work in David's life in mysterious ways. And if you think about it and consider this, Ruth is in the line of Jesus Christ. So Jesus actually has two amazing women with a checkered past. He has Rahab, the harlot, Rahab the prostitute from the city of Jericho, who had faith in God, and everybody else got devoted to destruction, but she gets added into the people of faith. How does that work? And then Ruth is a Moabite, but she has faith in the God of Israel, and she gets added in to the salvation plan. And so we see that God's plan is to save and to save people by faith. He's working in people's hearts. And these women, not only are they saved, but they get written into the lineage of Jesus Christ. That's pretty cool. And so we'll see Ruth transition now to 1 Samuel, and we're going to begin to get to know this integral, central figure through the next however many books that we read in the Old Testament. And you're going to see everybody talking about constantly King David.